Greetings, all. Welcome to Aquarian Diary. I'm your host, John Irving. It is March 12th, 2023. I'm just coming on here to do a brief update because it's been about 10 days since I've published anything. And there has been a lot going on, although a lot of it is behind the scenes. And that has to do with my own astrology. I knew this little period would be coming up with the sun transiting Pisces. And as an Aries rising, that's my 12th house. So it is and has been kind of a time for introspection, reviewing the past year's events. So in my case, at least, it's not the best time to be putting myself out there. There's another thing I've been experiencing that is extremely weird, and I don't think I've ever been through a period quite like this. I have hosted on my community tab, and I think I've mentioned it in other episodes, but we're in this kind of void phase. It's almost like we're in the balsamic phase of the moon cycle. We're just at the very end before there's going to be a new beginning. And so it's kind of like the closing of a chapter just before we begin a new one. So even though a lot of ideas can be coming through, there's some difficulty acting on them or expressing them. And someone I was talking to recently said that it feels like a very highly charged Mercury retrograde cycle. And I have felt that too. And there doesn't seem to be anything specific we can attribute that to astrologically, other than possibly we just had the shift of Saturn into Pisces on the 7th, and Pluto is now at 29 degrees Capricorn. That's really intense. The sun is in Pisces, like I said. So it's kind of a strange period. But the other thing I've been experiencing, as I mentioned, was that I have been waking up at like around 4 a.m., sometimes a little earlier, every day for, it seems like about a week now. That's really weird for me. There's no reason for me to wake up that early. And sometimes I'll even get up for a few hours and then go back to sleep. I recently started some spiritual practices that I haven't done in a while. But because I have this really weird sleep pattern, what I've been doing is, like I said, I get up really early. I'll stay up for a bit, do some things, then I'll have a nap, and then get up for a few more hours, and I'll have a bunch of energy, and then I get tired and I have another nap. There have been days recently where I napped 3 times in one day, which I think is unheard of for me. So it's like you get this short little burst of energy and then you get a recharge. I'm just putting that out there in case anybody else is experiencing this really weird energy. And I've mentioned before, and I'll say it again, that I have intuitively felt that within the coming weeks, around the time when Pluto goes into Aquarius, there's going to be a huge shift and things are going to be very different. And I've known that for a very long time. Now, as it turns out, there's a really interesting thing coming up on March 21st, which is the spring equinox. And it just so happens that on the day of the spring equinox, there is a new moon at 0 degrees and 50 minutes of Aries. So the sun is obviously, it's a new moon, the sun is obviously at 0 degrees Aries, and the moon is at 0 degrees Aries on the very first day of spring this year. And of course, a few days later, on March 23rd, Pluto goes into Aquarius, which is a huge shift. Pluto has been in Capricorn since 2008, and it will be in Aquarius for some 20 years. Now, I did a bit of research on this. In the last 1,000 years, I found 7 prior occurrences of a new moon at 0 degrees of Aries. So that's obviously less than once every 100 years. So a fairly rare new moon. And of course, like I said, we just had Saturn go into Pisces. We're having this new moon at 0 degrees of Aries. And then we're having Pluto move into Aquarius very shortly thereafter. So 0 degrees of Aries, being the first degree of the zodiac, is a very potent point. It is the point of new beginnings. And the fact that we are having a new moon on that day this year, with everything else that's going on, seems to be fairly significant to me. And it also ties in, like I said, with my intuitive impressions that I've had for a long time and continued to feel recently, that this period that is commencing in less than 10 days or 10 to 12 days is really important. So I wanted to draw your attention to that. Another thing is that around the end of February, I made an announcement that I was going to start doing personal astrology readings again. And that has been going really well. I was a little bit concerned because it has been a while since I've done that, kind of like since before the pandemic. But the readings have been going very well. And even more significantly, I have just been completely blown away by the quality of the people who have connected with me to do readings. Their charts are often stunning to me. I'm getting chills saying this. Of course, I really enjoy doing the readings for people, and I'm able to point some things out that I think may be very helpful to them. But just connecting with them as people and as individuals is proving to be a factor I had not really anticipated. So yes, I felt very humbled by having the opportunity to connect with people of that caliber. I have added a number of items to my to-do list of topics I want to address here, but I think I'm going to wait until the astrology is a little bit more conducive to that for me. So probably after March 21st, when the sun moves into Aries, I will resume producing content in a more significant way, at least. As you know, because I've addressed this here before, I feel very strongly that many of the issues we are confronting right now are literal existential threats, both to the habitability of our biosphere and to society. And I'm mentioning this because I've listened to a few things which have kind of indicated that people should just not be concerned about those kinds of things, that they will all sort themselves out. And to be completely frank and honest with you, I find that incredibly irresponsible. If there was no pushback against many of the forces that we are confronting right now, they would literally walk over us and we would be living in some kind of fascist, authoritarian dystopia. And many of the people I've spoken with recently feel the same way. So it's not just me. I'm not suggesting we all need to become activists, but we definitely cannot pretend that what is happening isn't actually happening. That is delusional and irresponsible. There's a lot of people who don't like to think about these kinds of things because it makes them feel uncomfortable. It disturbs them. Maybe they feel guilty about it. But at the very least, we need to be engaged on some level, because if there is no resistance, we can go off the deep end. And I think the evidence for that is becoming increasingly clear. The other thing, of course, is look at all the revelations and things that are coming to light and being addressed right now. For example, the largest cable news organization in the United States is facing its own existential threats. And I find it interesting that all of these kinds of things are coming to a head when Pluto is at 29 degrees of Capricorn, just as I suggested they would in prior episodes. It also looks like the former guy may be indicted in the very near future, which would, of course, occur in the same time frame. So many of the people I've been speaking with have very similar concerns to me. That's probably not surprising because they connected with me on purpose. So in many ways, my interaction with them has validated my own perspective. And I stand for accountability, a reality-based perspective, and not sitting on the fence. There's a case in Texas right now where a man is suing the friends of his ex-wife because they helped her figure out how to get an abortion. These aren't professional people. These are just literally her friends. And you think about the implications of that. That is the kind of thing that occurred in the Soviet Union with the Stasi. And it's occurring in the United States of America, the country that has been the most prominent liberal democratic country on the planet for generations. I mean, this kind of stuff is shocking, and I'm not even scratching the surface. I've read a whole bunch of things recently that I haven't seen people commenting on much, and I don't know why, but when time permits, I would like to dig into some of those things because I think they're very significant. I didn't want this to be too long. It was more just an update. So the major things that are going on are that I have connected with some fabulous, truly amazing people recently. We are rapidly approaching this, what I think will be a shift, a turning point, an inflection point. If your energy is all wonky right now, just probably continue to lay low and process. It's probably not the best time for external action. It's a time to recuperate and regenerate. Spring is almost here. And I just wanted to keep people up to date with where I am and what's going on. One other thing I want to mention is that I've always known what I would need to do to be popular on YouTube. It's really quite simple and obvious. If my only ambition was to be popular, I know exactly what I would do. And I've known that for years. But that is not my agenda and that is not my mission. I don't really care about that. In fact, I have quite a bit of disdain for things that are superficial. The last thing I would want to be is like a celebrity on TikTok. The world is flooded with that kind of stuff. And it is mostly a distraction and often vapid. I have no interest whatsoever in doing that. I don't care. I could just do monthly horoscopes for all the 12 signs and stuff like that, and probably have a lot more viewers if I didn't talk about social and political issues and express what I really feel. But there are tons of people doing that already, for starters. And if my ambition was only to make money, there are way more profitable things to do than try and become a YouTube influencer. If all you care about is money, this would be one of the dumbest things you could do with all your time. So I'm not here for the money and I'm not here for popularity, and I want to make that clear, just so people understand. I'm pretty sure that most of the people who follow me already understand this, but there may be some people who don't quite get or understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm doing it because I care about the fate of humanity and planet Earth. That's what motivates me. That's all for now. Check the episode description or my website if you want to contact me. So thanks for everything. Take care, and I'll talk to you again soon.